New research on the impact of Airbnb on the London rental market, and the latest on that huge security breach at Tesco Bank. Evidence emerges about where the hackers were based. First, here's Martha Carney from New York to tell us about the World at One. Martha.
Absolutely, Winifred, and I'm sure you can guess what we're going to be talking about today: the election of Donald Trump. He's been elected as the 45th President of the United States, and that's been sending shockwaves around the world. Pledging to rebuild and renew the American dream, he promises to heal a nation riven by a divisive campaign. So will Donald Trump govern as abrasively as he campaigned, or will a different kind of politician emerge? In a specially extended programme from New York, we'll be talking to his supporters and opponents and getting reaction from around the world. That's all in half an hour.
Thank you, Martha. Tesco Bank customers can now use their accounts as normal. Tesco had to suspend online banking at the weekend after its security systems were breached and accounts raided. The company says it's reimbursed £2.5 million to 9,000 customers. It's bad, not as bad as Tesco thought at first. Alan Baxter from Berwick Tweed had £600 taken and it left him really stuck. He called Tesco Bank for advice.
Fantastic. Well, I had to get some money because I needed to get home, buy food, and other things I need to use money for, usually living expenses. He explained that I could go to a local Tesco and via the customer services counter obtain what's called an emergency cash transaction, which they would have to authorise, but it would be fine. I went down to the local Tesco as instructed and was told I wouldn't mess about it. Eventually, the manager was out and said, well, what we'll do is we'll give you some money from a charities tent in the back office. Bear in mind that there was about 5-10 customers behind me at the time, which made me feel about 2 inches tall, totally embarrassed. So I got home, eventually phoned this chap again and said, like, this is what's happened. He explained that that's not what was should have happened, that there's certain Tesco's that can do emergency transactions, this being one of them, and the usual Tesco apology again. Yesterday on Tuesday, I received a call from what Tesco's are calling high-level complaints that all transactions should now be fine. I said, well, my card is still ineffective and cancelled. There's a new card on the way to you. It'll be here within 7 to 10 days. We actually received the PIN number for that new card yesterday. Touched on the card. And as of this morning, finally, so we're on now day 4, I was able to transfer some funds into another account. Basically, the lack of communication from Tesco's, I've lost confidence in them. Last night when I was at home, I was looking online to see what other banks I could open accounts with.
For us. Thanks, Helen. Well, we've got a major motorway closure. The M40 closed northbound between junction 10 for Brackley, junction 11 for Banbury. That's after car overturns at 9 o'clock. Now, this is putting much more pressure on the A422 in Brackley, particularly the westbound stretch heading up towards Farthinghoe. Updates to come on that. Apart from that, though, traffic around our county is coping well across Northampton, Corby and Kettering. The other big issue, though, is with the trains due to yesterday's damage to the overhead wires. There's still cancellations heading up from Corby towards London, and it's still buses instead as well between Kettering and Corby. If you do spot a problem, then call 01604 234455. I'm Bill Sheldrake, and the next update is in half an hour.
Northamptonshire Sport.
BBC Radio Northampton.
It's a natural concern from customers as to whether they can trust Tesco. On the other hand, when big glitches have happened in the past, you remember a little while ago, RBS and NatWest customers couldn't access their accounts in some cases for weeks, and it was said that many would change banks. In fact, not many did, so we don't do that very easily. So it may be that this is something that Tesco can easily survive.
So, first reports are starting to emerge about what might have happened and where these hackers might have been based.
Yes, I mean, first of all, the sort of fraud. I mean, most of the fraud that happens on banking is on a one-to-one basis. Fraudsters would trick us out of our account information or clone our car, something like that. But what's distinctive here is that they've got to us via the bank. The good side of that is that the bank should be responsible for reimbursing us. But on the other hand, it means they can get to a lot of people at the same time. So how? Well, it could be by hacking straight into the bank or by getting hold of a bundle of information about our accounts. That we don't know yet. However, what we do know, as you have pointed out, is that it's international in scale, that some of these transactions on people's accounts originated in Europe or South America, Spain and Brazil are the countries that have been mentioned. So this is going to be much trickier to deal with.
Simon Goggins, thank you very much for that. quite know how to write the introduction, but would do justice to what you're about to hear next. It's a listen. I wrote to us about something she heard on this programme. It was a report we ran about a specialist obesity service in Yorkshire, making the case for cognitive behavioural therapy to be provided by the NHS to help people for whom food is the drug of choice. A therapist from the Rotherham Institute for Obesity told us that many people eat for comfort, and that helping them to understand that and to recognise the triggers can be a much more effective way to healthy eating than a conventional diet plan alone. Lorna Dobson is 51, and here she is, speaking to us from our Leeds studio.
To go from people who are overweight and have got problems with their weight, feel judged. Therapists are acknowledging the fact that eating is a problem that can't just be got rid of by simple diet and things. I've tried all the dieting things and managed to lose weight. It hasn't helped me long term. It just rang a bell with me, it rang a chord with me, and I suppose it made me feel more human because of my issues.
When did your problems with food start, Lorna?
From sort of 5 and onwards, I would eat inappropriately. From just taking food out of the fridge to things like eating raw meat, ridiculous things like paper and pencils. I didn't just chew pencils, I ate pencils. Eating has always been a problem for me. I think that somewhere along the line, quite early on, I needed a way to control my emotions, and food was what I did that with. I suppress how I feel with food. When I can't cope, I eat. It kind of smothers my feelings. A year's therapy with the NHS, which was a one-to-one therapy, which was very useful but only took me so far. I'm now halfway through a 2-year course of group therapy. I suffer from depression and anxiety as well. And so the group therapy is looking at the wider scope of ourselves and how we deal with ourselves.
Could you talk me through then the feeling when you are anxious or depressed, or when you're experiencing an emotion that you feel you can't handle? What is it like when you reach for food and you eat it? How does it do that thing you described, dampen your feelings down?
It's almost like a switch off. I often eat food that I don't like, so it's almost like I'm punishing myself when I do it. The focus becomes the food and the guilt along with the food.
So you're almost replacing one bad or uncontrollable feeling with another bad feeling.
Yes, very much so.
Do you
Very much
recognise it now when you start to do it?
Some of the time, but not all of the time. At times, I don't feel like I've got the control over it that I'd like to have over it, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
I have a very complex relationship with food, actually, because I would struggle to tell you what food I enjoyed. Food is not a pleasurable experience for me. If I could find a way to give up, I would. Obviously, you can't just stop eating.
The reason we were drawn to the story about the Rotherham Obesity Institute is that we did a phone-in about obesity, and we had an email from a listener who said that we'd missed the point, that we judge obese people very harshly because
Yes.
we think of them as greedy when we should be thinking of them as unhappy.
Yes.
How do you think of yourself?
I was unhappy. Well, is it unhappy? I'm not sure. I've had a lot of unhappiness in my life. I'm at a strange place in my life at the moment. With my family, I'm very happy. But outside of that world, and I do go outside of the world, you know, I'm involved in things within my village and I work, but I'm unhappy with myself. I don't like myself. I don't care for myself.
Has the eating affected your appearance? Are you overweight?
I am, yes. I'm probably in clothes a size 20 to 22, so yes, I'm overweight.
How has being overweight affected you and the way people relate to you, do you think?
Do you know, it's a difficult one. I think probably people have been sarcastic to me and things, and people have been unkind. Most people aren't. I'm very unkind to myself, and so I probably assume the worst and kind of imagine that they're judging me maybe more than they are. People aren't always understanding.